Jacksonville. He's Hacker.
Talk about a fried egg. I lasted about 5 minutes out there. I said, to heck with this. I'll do this in the morning. And I don't have any inside information. The lady that did it, she got in there. She made it happen.
And he doesn't shy away from opinion.
And I do enjoy drinking cold beer at ballparks. So if that makes me a baseball fan, then I'm a diehard baseball fan.
It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
And a very good Wednesday evening to you, Jacksonville. It is Hacker After Dark, 1010XL, 92.5 FM with Dylan Denmark. The Hacker Ryan Green with you. Glad you are with us as we are now 24 hours away from Game 1 of the NBA Finals. The Mavericks and the Celtics tomorrow night. And thank goodness, boy, it's been a week between conference championships and the NBA Finals beginning tomorrow. For some reason that I still yet to understand, the Stanley Cup Finals doesn't begin until Saturday. Not that we're going to spend an awful lot of time on Florida and Edmonton. How would you like to be the National Hockey League and sell that? You know, nothing against the fan bases of Florida and Edmonton, although I guess Edmonton's got the entire country of Canada rooting for them. Canada hasn't won a Stanley Cup since Patrick Waugh and the Montreal Canadiens back in 1993. But good gracious, you could have had the Rangers, you could have had any combination, and instead you get Florida and Edmonton. But that begins on Saturday. The Jaguars taking part in their final week of OTAs. They will have mini camp next week, and then they're breaking off. They're going on summer vacation, I guess, for, about 5 weeks or so until they come back at the end of July, and we kick off training camp here in the city of Jacksonville. Guest lineup tonight looks like this. My buddy Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4, talking Jags, OTAs, and more. He comes up in less than 20 minutes. Also, our NFC East preview continues. We will make stops all over the NFC East this week. Tonight, it is about the Washington Commanders. Brand new head coach Dan Quinn. Brand new quarterback, of course, Jaden Daniels, Scott Jackson. Those longtime sports radio listeners here in Jacksonville might remember the name Scott Jackson. Yeah, he was on the ball back in the day, in the mornings, way back in the day. He does sports radio up in the D.C. area now, and he will join us to look at the Commanders offseason. That comes up in about 40 minutes or so. We're with you till 10 o'clock. Jacksonville, as always, we are glad you are with us. Every night here on Hacker After Dark, we give you a big deal of the night. And Dylan Denmark, let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal? What is the big deal?
No big deal.
It is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
So last night, I had a man on by the name of Ryan Michael. He is a contributing writer and analyst for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Analytics, decimal points, crunching the numbers, watching the tape for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And he had some really interesting thoughts on Trevor Lawrence. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. Basically, when you talk to national folks outside of the city of Jacksonville, at least in my opinion this offseason, whenever you mention the name Trevor Lawrence, negative tones come out, right? Disappointment, not living up to expectation, not worth the number one pick, not a top 10 quarterback, whatever verbiage you want to use. And we've just grown accustomed to hearing that from folks outside the city of Jacksonville when it comes to Trevor Lawrence. Ryan Michael, analyst and writer for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, had a completely different take on it. I had him on last night. Here's a little snippet of what he had to say.
I would put Trevor Lawrence right behind Patrick Mahomes. And the reason why I say that isn't obviously the raw numbers from 2023, although, again, it's worth noting, number one in the AFC in adjusted EPA, ninth in the NFL in sack percentages, third consecutive year at being top 10 in sack percentage, 9th in completions, 10th passing yards, a career high 7.1 yards per attempt. So the raw numbers are better when you factor in that context. It's what I'm seeing from Trevor Lawrence on film that has me stepping away from the film room, believing that he is one of the very best quarterbacks in the NFL. The NFL is the ultimate team sport, so we can't all play for Kansas City, can we? There's plenty of talent. C.J. Stroud had arguably the greatest rookie passing season that we've seen in over a decade. It'll be interesting to see what he does in year two, because I'm a little bit more impressed with what a quarterback does in their sophomore year versus their freshman year after defensive coordinators have more film to study. We see Trevor Lawrence took a big step forward in his second year. Historically speaking, when you have quarterbacks who step in and they're incredibly dominant in year one, they oftentimes take a little bit of a step back in year two. Be interesting to see if the Jaguars defense can be a contributing factor in doing that to C.J. Stroud this year.
So those comments to me were very interesting because, again, it's been a very negative tone about Trevor when you talk to people that cover the league on a broad basis. We have a much higher opinion of Trevor in the Jacksonville market than what's outside of here. That's why I appreciated Ryan Michaels' answer there. Would I put Trevor Lawrence second only to Patrick Mahomes right now? No, I don't think I would do that. I mean, hello Josh Allen, hello Lamar Jackson, hello Joe Burrow when healthy. I'm not going to go there, but I do think Trevor is better than what he's being made out to be. And I have sometimes been accused of being too much of a stats guy, right? Too much of a fantasy football geek or nerd. And my argument to that is everybody's got opinions, right? Opinions are like, I can't say that. Eyebrows. That's a good one. Eyebrows. A majority of you listening have a pair of eyebrows. Just like a majority of you have opinions. Everybody's got them. Facts are facts. And to me, what stats tell you are the facts. Now, if you take out Trevor's rookie year, which I think we're all in agreement you can, because that was a disaster with Urban Meyer, in the last 2 years, Trevor Lawrence has been responsible, including the postseason, for 18 wins. All right? He's won 18 games as the Jaguars starting quarterback, 17 in the regular season, and 1 in the postseason. Remember, he missed the Carolina win last year, so you don't count that. But he's got 18 victories under his belt. He's thrown for 4,000 yards in back-to-back years, 41-13 in 2022, 40-16 in 2023. Touchdowns, 46 touchdowns the last 2 years. Compare that to 22 interceptions. That's over 2 for 1. Touchdown interception ratio. Where I come from, that's pretty good. He's also completed in the last 2 years basically 66% of his passes on average. 66.3 in 2022, 65.6 in 2023. So here's what I don't understand. Because I've seen quarterback lists that have Trevor at number 15 or number 20 that have him compared to the likes of Daniel Jones and Gardner Minshew. To me, that's nonsense, right? You're telling me in the last 2 years, I have a quarterback that's thrown for over 8,000 yards. I have a quarterback that's thrown 46 touchdown passes to only 22 interceptions. On average, that's 23 touchdowns compared to 11 picks. And I have a quarterback that's completing 66% of his passes. I'll take that all day. Are those generational numbers? No. He's not a generational quarterback. But he's a good quarterback. He could do a lot worse than he's doing. The Jaguars could be a lot worse off than they are. Trevor Lawrence, to me, nationally, is the victim of pre-draft hype. Everybody hyped this guy up to be the next Marino, the next Manning, the next Andrew Luck. And he might be Andrew Luck. I don't necessarily believe at this point he's Marino or Manning, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can still be a very, very, very good quarterback and not necessarily be Dan Marino or Peyton Manning, two of the greatest to ever do it. And again, maybe I'm too much of a stats guy, and I understand I'm not taking into account the fumbles, and the fumbles are an issue. The fumbles need to be corrected. But when you look at quarterbacks, you look at yards thrown, you look at touchdown to interception ratio, and you look at completion percentage. And in every one of those categories for the last 2 years after the Urban Meyer fiasco, Trevor's just fine. Trevor is just fine in my book. I'm happy he's here. And you can say whatever you want nationally about Trevor Lawrence. What I like is that Trevor seems to play angrier when there's a chip on his shoulder. You know, what people tend to forget is the Jaguars were not only 8-3, but remember that Monday night game? The game in which Christian Kirk got hurt? I saw a stat. I forget where I saw it. Trevor was like 22 for 29 for 260 yards and 2 touchdowns in that Cincinnati game before his leg got bent backwards. Before that injury, which really accumulated every other injury that we saw from there on out. That injury, again, that Cincinnati game was just awful for the Jaguars. It ruined the season. Kirk got hurt on the first play. Trevor got hurt, was never right after that. Remember, despite all of that, the Jaguars would have won the game if they weren't called for a holding penalty there late in the fourth quarter. That one game snowballed into what was the greatest late season collapse in franchise history. I don't know how the Jaguars are going to do this year. I tend to believe they're of the 9-8, potentially 10-7 variety. But I do believe if Trevor Lawrence is healthy, he's going to be awfully good again. And right now, on June 5th, if you tell me Trevor's stats are going to be much like they were the last 2 years, he's going to throw for over 4,000 yards. He's going to complete 66% of his passes. He's going to have 23 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. I would probably take that. Denmark, am I drinking the Kool-Aid there? If I tell you 4,000 yards, 66% completion percentage, 23 touchdowns, 11 picks, would you take that from Trevor?
Yeah, I'd take most of that.
And that's what he's done the last 2 years, 2022 and 2023. And yet, for some reason, the narrative outside of Jacksonville is he hasn't been any good.
Recency bias, Zach. Recency bias.
That's probably true. After 2022, that's fair. After 2022, he was getting a lot of love, which is funny because his 2023 numbers were basically identical. You look in 2022, 41-13 passing. 2023, 40-16 in one less game. He averaged throwing more per game in 23 than he did in 22. He threw some more picks in 23, no question. 25 touchdowns, 8 picks in 22, compared to 21 touchdowns, 14 picks in 23. And his completion percentage in 22 was less than 1% higher, 0.7% higher. Similar. Just a handful more of interceptions. I think Trevor's going to be just fine. I hope people keep sleeping on him. And I like the fact that we had Ryan Michael on last night from the Pro Football Hall of Fame to point out the drops, the talent around him, the circumstances, the situations, and how Trevor, amidst all that, has still put up pretty good numbers 3 years in to his NFL career. More on the Jaguars, more on Trevor Lawrence. Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4. Last week of Jaguar OTAs, mini camp next week. Let's talk Jaguar offseason. Let's review OTAs. What have we learned over these last 3 weeks? What do we hope to learn next week at mandatory minicamp? It is a Wednesday evening in Jacksonville, Florida, with Dylan Denmark, the hacker Ryan Green with you. As always, Jacksonville, thank you for spending your Wednesday evening with us. Right here, Hacker After Dark, 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
It's a feeling.
Do you feel it?
A buzz.
I feel it. I feel it as strongly as I've ever felt anything in my life.
A vibe.
I can feel it. I can feel it like it's right.
1010XL. Sports talk for the First Coast.
Awaken 180 weight loss. Awaken 180 weight loss. You know, it's interesting now. Every time I put a video on social media or I put a show preview with myself and Little Hack, people listen to it, but they're more seeing the video, and they're commenting, Hack, you look great. Hack, you've lost so much weight. Well, it's all thanks to Awaken 180. Trust me, my comments about my videos 4 months ago were not flattering when it came to my weight. I'm down 65-plus pounds in 3.5 months. Awaken 180 Weight Loss is the best weight loss program I've ever been on. It's worked for me. Trust me when I tell you, it will work for you. If it's that time in your life to lose weight like it was for me, call 844-346-1800. 844-346-1800 or go online, awaken180weightloss.com. They're changing lives. I'm one of them. Trust me. Awaken 180 Weight Loss.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
I know you want maximum equity from your home, but you're not quite sure how when it comes time to sell it. I'll tell you how. I'll give you two hows, Chad and Sandy. More on that in a second. It's a tougher market now. It means it's crucial to hire the right agents to sell your home to maximize price, and we have been telling you now for years, and why I'm recommending Chad and Sandy Newman at chadandsandy.com. They've got the plan and experience to sell your home fast for maximum cash. No required costly repairs. Pick your move date. There are no long-term contracts. You can cancel at any time, but most importantly, Chad and Sandy guarantee your home sold at an agreed-upon price and deadline, or they will buy it. Take Mary in Panther Creek. My dream was to move from my Panther Creek home into a new Del Webb Sweetwater home closer to my family. Chad and Sandy made it happen. They sold my own home in just 14 days, plus they helped me get into my new dream home at the same time. Call the Jacksonville experts I trust and recommend. Call Chad and Sandy at 414-6200, 904-414-6200, or chadandsandy.com.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
Did you know Duck Duck Rooter is the area's go-to plumber? A 5-star Google-rated company, Duck Duck Rooter can take care of all of your plumbing repairs and upgrades. Need to switch from septic over to city sewer? Call the Duck. How about water heater repairs and replacement? You're just a duck away, or call away, for Duck Duck Rooter Plumbing and Septic Services.
When you're stuck, call the Duck. 904-862-6769.
It's all about the beautiful game. The Sporting Jacks Soccer Hour. From national teams to youth soccer on the First Coast. Join Cole Pepper, Mauricio Ruiz, and Becky Burley for Soccer Talk. Monday evenings on 10:10 a.m. Time now for a medical recap. A health and wellness tip from Jaguars head team physician Dr. Kevin Kaplan.
Regular movement is key to so many health benefits. Aim for at least 10,000 steps a day. Decide to only take the stairs if you're walking less than 6th floor. Never park in the first 10 spaces of the parking lot. Walk during your work breaks. Get up 10 minutes earlier in the morning and take a short, brisk walk before the chaos of the day starts. There are so many easy ways to stay active. Let's get moving, Jacksonville.
I'm sure many of you guys feel like you wish you could be as fit as you were in your 20s. The dad bod is really tough to shed. I'm Dr. Lance Snyder, and I did something about it through Dr. Rappaport at the Jax Aesthetic Center. I'm active, I played college sports, and I still work out a few times a week. Nothing worked. As a doctor and a dad, I want to be around as long as possible and feel good about my body. Dr. Rappaport put together a personalized treatment plan that worked. It was easy for me to make appointments, get to those appointments, and get back to work in time. I also recommend the Emsella chair for any urinary issues or ED. Dr. Rappaport has state-of-the-art treatment options for men. And the M-Sculpt Neo is an abs blast. 20,000 crunches in 30 minutes. Give yourself your own gift this Father's Day at the Jax Aesthetic Center. Build muscle and lose fat. Call or text today, 904-808-2455. That's 904-808-2455. You won't be sorry.
Matt Hayes here for Leonard Truck Outfitters. The Southeast's biggest truck accessory and trailer company is opening their newest location on Beach Boulevard. Truck accessories, trailers, or commercial uplifts, they've got you covered. From Real Truck, UWS, Weather Guard, carry-on trailers, and much more. Join us for our grand opening on June 28th, starting at noon. XL Primetime will be there live from 2 to 4 with special promotions and giveaways, even a free golf cart. That's June 28th. Don't forget about our other location on Blanding Boulevard.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Let's ring up another guest on the All-Pro Roofing phone line.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, we are glad you are with us. The third and final week of OTAs for the Jaguars began today. They'll be on the field this week. They have a veteran mini camp next week, although based on what Doug Peterson said today, I'm not sure how many veterans will actually be here. More on that in a moment. And then that's it until they reconvene for training camp, which is now next month at the end of July. With that, Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4. He's always kind enough to join us here on Hacker After Dark. Jamal, how we doing?
Pretty good. How you doing, Hacker?
Jamal, we're good, man. Thank you for the time. You and I haven't spoken since OTAs began, so we've been out there 3 different practices. They began week number 3 today. Look, OTAs are what they are. There's no hitting. There's no pads, but you can kind of see tendencies, right? You can see things that you're going to keep an eye on when training camp comes around. In totality, what have been your big takeaways from the last 3 weeks?
Look, I try not to take too much, not to read too much into OTAs. I feel like every year there's some guy, some undrafted free agent, something that everybody walks away from OTAs and minicamp. Oh, this guy's so great, and then as soon as the pads come on, he disappears. So I honestly try not to put too much stock into what happens right now, just because, look, this is installation for the most part. I mean, if I had to pick one guy that's really caught my attention, I'd say it's Jarian Jones, the rookie corner. Had an interception today. He's been really sticky and covered. Had a pass breakup the last time we were out there. I've seen him line up inside and outside, so I think I've seen some good things from him.
Yeah, I agree. Jarian Jones of the rookies is one guy that's caught my eye. But I'll tell you this, man. Normally I look at the young guys, but I got to tell you, Jamal, every time 17 goes across the middle, he's making a play. Evan Ingram, who had a crazy good year last year, obviously had the big contract at the beginning of last year. Man, again, don't put too much stock into it. It's the early part of June, but Evan Ingram looks awfully smooth out there.
Yeah, keep in mind, Evan Ingram missed these workouts today. I actually talked to Evan after practice today. Look, he said he's taking it one day at a time. He's enjoying it. He feels at home in the offense. He said the way last season went lit a fire underneath that team. So he's really excited. He's enjoying the process. Like I said, missed this part of the offseason a year ago because he was dealing with his whole contract thing. He was on the franchise tag. So he's kind of moving through this process and enjoying getting the chance to be out there on the field and catch all those passes from Trevor.
Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4. It's interesting you asked Evan that. I had Anton Harrison. I asked him the same thing. 5 months removed, how fresh is the collapse at the end of last year? And he said, yeah, we're still thinking about it. That was not us. Certainly for the guys that were a part of that, that has been a big motivating factor this offseason.
Shucks, I didn't even ask him that. He just volunteered it. So that was on his mind. I asked him about Press Taylor's comments about, gutting the offense a little bit and what changes he saw, and that's where he went with it. Look, so I think that is definitely something that is true to the personality of this team, especially in the leaders, the guys that were here last year. There was some hurt. They don't like how it ended. There were injuries. They were banged up, and they're going out there to try and get some get back.
Jamal, when you look at the roster, let's kind of go position by position. Again, we won't hold you to it. Obviously, it's OTAs. We'll know a lot more in 6 or 7 weeks when training camp gets underway. But for the here and now, wide receiver, obviously a lot's been made of that. The departures of Calvin Ridley and Zay Jones, the arrival of Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas. But I think there's going to be some real competition towards the back end. The Tim Jones, Elijah Cooks, Parker Washingtons of the world. They're going to have to cut probably a good football player or two out of that wide receiver room.
Look, wide receiver is a deep position. They have a lot of talent there, and when you start rattling off the guys, you know that they're keeping Brian Thomas Jr., Gabe Davis, Christian Kirk, right? Those 3 guys are locked in 100%, no question. And then Devin Duvernay is locked in because of his special teams role. So that's 4 guys. Last year they kept 7. So there's space there for movement. Tim Jones has been around as a special teams guy, maybe. With some of the new special teams changes on kickoffs, they don't see it the same way. Elijah Cooks made the roster a year ago for potential. Maybe if they don't see the right growth from him, they don't feel the need to keep him around for another year. But Parker Washington, a guy that Doug Peterson pointed out today, saying he's seen a lot of growth from. He was a guy that a lot of people were kind of looking at on the bubble. But I think Parker has definitely shown the growth. He looks jacked. Parker looks like a running back out there. He's just kind of that kind of build, stocky guy. So we'll see what Parker has. I liked Parker coming out in the draft. I thought Parker did some good things last year, but showed that he was a rookie. So he's definitely a guy that's going to be worth keeping an eye on because, there's some competition there. I know a lot of people really like Joshua Cephas, the undrafted free agent. I was a big David White Jr. guy because he was a local guy, and just watching him move the way he was able to move out there on the football field. But Doug Peterson kind of making the announcement today that he tore his ACL last week. So he's going to miss this season. So but that wide receiver battle is going to be one that I think a lot of people are going to have eyes on.
Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4. Yeah, it's interesting when Doug Peterson made the comment about Parker Washington. It kind of perked my ears up because I agree. I was on the mindset that he might be on the bubble. And look, it's one comment, but when the head coach singles you out as a guy that's really done well this offseason, that's certainly good news for Parker Washington. And I took notice of him today. And there's a confidence with him. It's interesting when you go from year 1 to year 2. And Peterson mentioned that about a lot of guys when asked about young guys that have emerged this offseason. He mentioned Parker Washington. He mentioned Britton Strange. He mentioned Tank Bigsby. He mentioned Ventrell Miller coming back from injury. What do all those guys have in common? They were all part of the 23 draft class, right? I mean, it goes to show you that year 1 to year 2 jump and what players go through in that 12 months.
Now, I will tell you, I hated that answer that he gave because he mentioned basically the whole last year's draft class. He mentioned, all of them. Give me 2 guys, and then I feel like, he singled them out. But he mentioned, everybody. Britton Strange, Tank Bigsby, Parker Washington. I mean, the only guys that were left out were, Christian Braswell and Eric Hallett. So if I'm them, I'm looking at each other like, what'd we do?
He did mention Anton Harrison, too. That's because Harrison obviously proved himself
But he had started all the
year.
games,
Yeah, and I talked to Anton earlier today. Boy, I got to tell you, Jamal, the more highlights of last year that I watched, the more impressed I was. Remember, he had that awful game against Kansas City where Chris Jones kind of welcomed him to the NFL. After that, boy, on that right side of the line, 77 was pretty solid all year. I'm really excited for Anton Harrison. And that offensive line who's taken a lot of grief this offseason, you bring in Mitch Morse, you re-sign Ezra Cleveland, Cam's not suspended now. I don't know. I got a quiet confidence about that O-line coming into the year. What's your thought?
I hope I can get the confidence that you got somewhere along the line. Look, I like Anton. I think Anton going into his next year is going to take a step forward. They put him on an island. They trusted him as a rookie, only up from here. He dealt with that shoulder injury all last season. He's still rehabbing from it. I like Anton. I think Anton's going to be a really good player, a really good starter for the Jaguars, hopefully for a long time. The rest of the offensive line, I don't feel as secure about. I do like the addition of Mitch Morris, and I do think that that's an upgrade at that spot. Outside of that, they really didn't do much. You get Ezra Cleveland and you say, okay, well, maybe he's healthy. Cam Robinson has dealt with some injuries over the past couple of years, and how many games is he going to be able to play this season? You have to start asking that question. Brandon Sheriff dealt with injuries. Again, how many games is he going to be able to play healthy? Because he hasn't missed a game in Jacksonville, But then you start asking the tougher question: how many games has he played at 100%? And I know the NFL guys are never at 100%, but he's been banged up a lot and not played at the level of which they thought they were going to get when they first signed him. So that brings down the level of play on that offensive line. Look, I got questions. I think continuity is a good thing. I think keeping the group together is a good thing. I think this group could be a solid offensive line, but I'm not sold on it, and I kind of need to see it at this point because outside of Mitch Morris, it's the same group that they had last year. And last year, even when the pieces were changed or moved around, there was a lot left to be desired.
A couple of more for Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4, and that's fair. I can't argue with that. I think my point, too, is, look, you're right about the injuries, but, you could do a lot worse than Walker Little and Luke Fortner as your 6th and 7th offensive linemen, right? I mean, they've played a ton of football, and to think those guys are probably going to be backups when the year starts. You got Tyler Shatley, Cooper Hodges, Blake Hance, Javon Foster. I mean, they got some guys, and they're going to have to cut one or two of those names.
Yeah, there's going to be some tough cuts at a lot of positions. I mean, people kind of gave us grief last year because I think during training camp we were talking about how many tough cuts they had in the depth on this roster, and then the injuries happened and the depth didn't necessarily show up. That doesn't really change the fact that there's still going to be some tough cuts on this team. No player that's sitting on the bench is generally going to be as good as your starter at a lot of times. So, yeah, look, there's a lot of depth on this team at a multitude of different positions. Wide receiver is going to have some tough cuts. Offensive line going to have some tough cuts. Running back, there's going to be some tough decisions that got to get made there. I mean, even if you go to the defense, there's going to be some tough cuts on that defensive line because you can't keep everybody.
Why do I think Keelan Robinson is going to be more than a return guy? Every coach we talk to, they bring up more than the return game with him. Are fans kind of sleeping on that pick a little bit?
Well, I think part of the reason is because he didn't do it in college, right? So he started at Alabama, was part of a rotation there, went to Texas where he finished out, got a few select opportunities and reps. I do think that this coaching staff believes that he can be more than just that and see that explosive ability and say, if we could just get this guy in open space, the same way they look at the kickoff return, if we could do that on offense, he could be a big play waiting to happen. So I do think they're looking at it that way. I understand why there's not a whole lot of hype. I mean, he was a late round draft pick who didn't have gaudy numbers in college, so people are like, I didn't see it. It hasn't happened yet. But I do think I understand the vision. I see the vision. If this guy is explosive, he's got the speed, he's got the wiggle. If it works there, why can't it work in the offense? All they got to do is figure out how to get him in some space. Screens, passes in the open field, let the guy go and do his thing. We'll see how it comes together. But I think it's going to be tough for him to earn a ton of carries as a rookie. Maybe in year 2 or 3, maybe he earns a few more of those spots because I think it's going to be tough for them to convince themselves to take Travis and Tank off the field.
No, I agree with that. And Tank Bigsby's another one that looks good. Again, he looked good last year.
Man, Tank is on his revenge tour. I talked to Tank earlier in OTAs. He's out to prove some folks wrong. And the one thing that he told me that I didn't even realize, this is his first time since high school that he's had the same offense. Because at Auburn, he went through two head coaches and 3 offensive coordinators. He's ready to prove some folks wrong. He's been working, and I know a lot of people have been saying bad things about him online. He's one of them that just kind of lurks and watches, so he knows, and he's eager. Let's say that.
I like to hear that. Because it was not a good rookie campaign for he or Brenton Strange, and we'll see what both young men can do in year number 2. Final moments, Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4. All right, Jamal, you've taken a look at the cornerback position, at least what we've been able to see through these OTAs. They need to bring in a veteran, in your opinion, or do you think they're okay there?
Look, I understand the need for letting the young guys play. I'd still bring in a veteran. I would bring one in that's just me before those guys get snatched up off the streets. I would do it in a heartbeat because competition is competition is competition. Look, I think Jarian is going to be a good player. I think Jarian could earn a starting spot, but I'd rather him have to beat out a vet to do it. Same thing. I think Darby's fine from the glimpses that we've seen. And keep in mind, in my opinion, one of the harder positions to evaluate in OTAs is cornerback because they're not making a single play on the ball. Basically, once the ball's thrown, they turn off the gas. So because they can't have that contact, that's how the Jaguars got pinched under the Urban Meyer days and got fined by the NFL and disciplined. So they turn off the gas. So it's really hard to see that anticipation, that break, that closing speed, because they're not doing it right now. But I would bring in a guy. I would, because you're one injury away. I mean, Tyson dealt with injuries last year. Ronald Darby has dealt with injuries in his career. And you got unproven guys behind them, and Christian Braswell, Greg Jr., Montarg Brown, that haven't had to play a whole lot of man coverage in the NFL. There's enough questions around that and this defense and the expectations on this team. Sign me up. They got a vet on the street, Stephon Gilmore. I'd bring him in.
Yeah, there's three of them, Stephon Gilmore, Xavier Howard, and Steven Nelson, that are all still out there. And if you're a veteran this time of year, you're probably not wanting to sign anyway until mid-July at the earliest, because you don't want to deal with OTAs or minicamp or anything. Final moments, Jamal, same question. Edge pass rush. Again, no pad, so it's really hard to evaluate this. But again, after Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker, they got some big dudes, man. I mean, they got some guys, but they don't have a lot of proven production after Allen and Walker on that edge pass rush position. What's your thought about a veteran potentially there?
I feel better about Gibson than I did maybe a couple of weeks ago. He worked with Shuey when he had a big year in Chicago, so Shuey knows him personally. Was part of the reason that he ended up here in Jacksonville. Shuey's the outside line or the edge coach for the Jaguars that helped Trayvon and Josh have those big seasons a year ago. But same thing. This team wants to. I think Press Taylor said it. Look, they don't want to just get to the postseason. They don't want to just win games. They're out to win the whole thing. If you can go get a vet, it's better to have 4 pass rushers than 3. And if you can go get a guy that helps that rotation, because again, you are one injury away at all times, I'd do it.
I would too, and there are guys out there, Carl Lawson, Emmanuel Ogbah, Ngakoue, even reuniting with Calais Campbell. There are guys that could come in and help you. We'll see what the Jaguars decide to do. Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4. Jamal, what's the coverage look like on Channel 4 in the coming days?
Hey, we'll ramp it up and get all our Jaguar stuff out over the next week or so, and then we'll be hitting the snooze button after minicamp after next week, and then we'll be gearing up to Teal the Show. I think we're planning on ramping that up at the beginning of training camp, so we'll be back with all the updates.
It'll be very, very soon, no question about it.
Yep.
Jamal, appreciate it. I'll see you next week at minicamp.
Yep, no problem. See you, Hacker.
There you go, Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4 here with us on Hacker After Dark. Always appreciate him. And, yeah, last week of OTAs, minicamp next week. Now, Doug Peterson on Monday said, if you'll remember last year, he gave a lot of the veterans minicamp off. A lot of the rookies, second-year players coming back from injury, they were mainly the ones that came in for minicamp, and that appears to be the direction they're going in again this year. Because if you look around the league, the Jaguars kind of got off to one of the later starts. A lot of teams broke today. Like I know Miami, Dallas, just to name a few, their players are on summer vacation now until the end of July. So the Jaguars have one more week, but I don't think a lot of those veterans on the team will be here. I think the rookies, the young guys, and the guys coming off of injury will be the ones that we see at minicamp next week down there at the Miller Electric Center. All week long, we've done NFC East stuff. We're going to do a division a week leading up to Jaguar training camp. We started it last week in the AFC East. This week, it's about the NFC East with stops in Dallas, Philadelphia, New York, and tonight, let's go to Washington. The Commanders, a just made-over roster. Brand new head coach, new coordinators, a new quarterback in Jaden Daniels. Is it a rebuild in Washington, or can they compete with the Cowboys, with the Eagles in the NFC East? Scott Jackson, formerly of the Ball here in Jacksonville, he now does sports radio up in Virginia Beach, was part of the Commanders radio network for a long time. We'll talk with Scott about Washington, about their outlook, and we'll recap their offseason as our NFC East preview this week rolls on a Wednesday night edition of Hacker After Dark with Dylan Denmark, the Hacker Ryan Green with you here on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Summer Sun. Get the summer feeling on Jacksonville's summer station. 1010XL. 1010XL.
Hacker here, and I just got back from a cruise to the Caribbean, and it was incredible. I actually saw a few folks from Jacksonville who recognized me, and did they want to talk sports? Nope. They complimented my weight and how I look so different after dropping 65 pounds with Awaken 180 weight loss. I even had strangers that overheard some of those conversations that started asking me about Awaken 180. I took some fantastic pictures with my family that I would have otherwise avoided because of my weight. If you're overweight, you know what I mean. I knew I was going to go off the program for a bit because, hey, I deserved it. But my Awaken 180 coach had my back. She showed me how to take a break for 9 days and not put all the weight back on. It was easy. I ate all sorts of food, but the difference? I didn't keep going back for seconds and thirds. My body didn't need it. The kicker? I didn't gain a single pound because my metabolism is on fire. If you want a program that works and coaches that understand, do what we all did and go to Awaken180weightloss.com.
Rick Ballou for Carlson Dental. You know, I've been telling you this for quite some time because it's true. I hate going to the dentist, or at least I used to hate going to the dentist. I had total anxiety, and then I tried sedation. Light sedation for cleaning and deep sedation as well for cavities and root canals. Folks, it's an incredible experience. So don't be nervous. Don't be scared. Go to carlsondentalgroup.com. That's carlsondentalgroup.com for all of your dental needs.
The Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute is now offering online scheduling for new patient appointments for all of their physicians. Simply schedule your appointment on your cell phone, tablet, or desktop. JOI is the first orthopedic practice in North Florida to offer this feature to patients. To schedule your appointment online, visit joi.net and click on the button at the top of the page. If you'll be using insurance, be sure and have your information handy. JOI, where the pros go.
Bueller Air and Plumbing presents Are You Cool?
Our returning champion, a basketball court sweat mopper from Jacksonville, Florida, meet Lewis Cramp.
Great to be back, Merv.
There's only one category left on the board, Lewis. People you can trust to repair your air conditioner. Your 10 seconds starts now.
Well, I'm pretty handy with tools around. Right, so my Uncle Steve used to fix transmissions, so maybe he could... Okay, sorry. I guess just call the guys at Bueller?
That's right, Lewis. The highly trained technicians at Bueller Air and Plumbing have the tools and the experience to service any make and model of home air conditioner to make sure that you are cool.
You sure I can't just have a quick...
Yeah, we're done for today.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
Fish are good at hiding. Captain Kevin can help you find them. Oh, yeah, that's a big one. Find more fish on the Ring Power Fishing Forecast Show.
Thursday nights at 6.
Brought to you by Awaken 180 Weight Loss on 1010XL AM.
Hey, sports fans, it's Hayes Carline for Kingfish Pest Control. Are mosquitoes turning your outdoor fun into a full contact sport? Time to call in Kingfish Pest Control. I can tell you from my own experience, they are the MVPs of mosquito elimination. See for yourself. Call Kingfish Pest Control today and get an unbeatable 50% off your first treatment. That's right, sign up for a full season of lockdown coverage and get 50% off your first treatment. Don't let mosquitoes steal your home field advantage. Reclaim your yard with Kingfish Pest Control.
Instant Keys. Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you. Call 904-722-1111.
Instant Keys saves the day if you've lost or broken keys. They can program new keys and remotes for nearly every make and model of vehicle at a fraction of the dealership cost. Fast, honest, and reliable locksmith service. Call Instant Keys, 722-1111.
Has someone you care about been arrested or had their driver's license taken away? I'm Susan Cohen, and I work with David Robbins at the law firm of Epstein & Robbins. We are experienced fighters for those charged with DUI, domestic violence, and all criminal offenses. In your battle with the justice system, there's only one thing you need to know. Dial David 24/7 at Epstein & Robbins, 354-5645. 354-5645.
Hey guys, this is David Garrard, and I want to tell you about Clearwater Irrigation. They put my new sprinkler system in my new home at Jack's Beach, and I couldn't be happier. Oh, hey, John.
What's up, Dave? You know what this means. You're going to have to sing.
Man, I can't sing.
Then you'll fit right in, buddy. Clear water irrigation. We can't sing a lick, but we sure are good at sprinklers. Hit it, Dave.
And drainage, too.
ClearwaterJacks.com.
If you wear contact lenses and you're between the ages of 18 and 69, the Vision Research Center is looking for participants in clinical research studies. If eligible, you'll be compensated up to $50 per hour. I've done these contact lens studies for years. The VRC staff is wonderful and they work with my busy schedule. See if you qualify. Visit their website, 188visionok.com. 188visionok.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Let's ring up another guest on the All-Pro Roofing phone line.
Our preview of the NFC East continues this week. We have made stops already in Dallas. We will go to New York. We will go to Philadelphia. Tonight, it's all about the Commanders and brand new head coach Dan Quinn. A lot of interesting acquisitions this offseason, some veterans, and, of course, a brand new quarterback up there in Washington. With all that being said, my buddy Scott Jackson, formerly sports radio here in Jacksonville, on the ball. You hear him now, ESPN Radio 94.1 in Virginia Beach. Scott, always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Scott, how we doing?
Great, man. Good to hear from you, Ryan.
Hey, Scott, always appreciate the time when I talk to you. I know football season's getting that much closer. All right, a really interesting offseason for the Commanders. Let's begin right off the top with Brandon McManus, the former Jaguar, gets accused of some misconduct, some improprieties on a flight to London. Obviously, a bad PR look for the Jaguars. The Commanders signed him, did not look great for them, and they have subsequently released Brandon McManus, effective earlier this week.
Yeah, I mean, where's Joey Sly when you need him? I mean, you know, he missed some kicks, but he wouldn't do anything like this. But, yeah, it's interesting. They thought they were upgrading that position. And look, if he was any other position, would he get a little bit more time for process, for the legal system to play itself out? Perhaps he would have, but he's a kicker. You can't have your most distracting player being a kicker, unless I guess you're the Chiefs. But you just can't deal with something like that. I mean, who knows what happened, on the flight, but obviously it's pretty serious allegations. And an organization, by the way, that under the previous ownership had these kind of allegations of themselves, right? So it's just like bad, optics all the way around, and Brandon McManus is not going to get the benefit of the doubt here, and so they move on.
Yeah, Brandon McManus gone in Washington. Somebody that has arrived in Washington is Dan Quinn. We'll obviously get to the players in a moment, but we're very familiar with him from his time at the University of Florida. We know the success he had running the defense in Seattle, running the defense in Dallas, obviously a head coach formerly in Atlanta as well. Your thoughts on the hire there of Dan Quinn?
Well, to be truthful, man, I think at the time it was probably kind of underwhelming, right? When all the other options that were out there at the time, you're talking about Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel, also discussion. Obviously, Ben Johnson appeared to be the apple of their eye, but that didn't work out. He decided to give it another year in Detroit. Maybe it was a money thing for him or a trust thing, whatever it was. I mean, they were en route to fly to interview him for the second time. I know there's been some stuff put out back channels, since then. Well, I wasn't a good interview and all this, but it was like you were going to talk to him again. So something, there was still some level of interest from the team's part, but it didn't work out. But I think Quinn, has hit the ground running here. He's done a really nice job, I think hitting a lot of the areas that folks have been kind of frustrated with this football team over the last few years. We've seen this Dallas defense up close in this division, and they've been terrific at taking the ball away and scoring and doing a lot of the things that we're frustrated with as Washington defense that they couldn't do for the last several years. So I think he's put together a really good staff, a different staff. Not everybody's his buddy from his previous stop, which is refreshing, because that was kind of the mode Ron Rivera got caught up into, with the exception of the Del Rio hire, a guy he never worked with. But and I think that's been well received. And and Adam Peters, who was obviously the top general manager prospect this offseason for the 49ers, I think has done really good job with trying to rebuild this roster as well as he can in the first off season.
Scott Jackson, ESPN 94.1 there in Virginia Beach, as our NFC East preview continues with the Washington Commanders. That leads us to Jaden Daniels, new head coach in Dan Quinn, a brand new quarterback in Jaden Daniels. You and I talked right around the draft. That was the direction we both thought it was going to go. It ultimately turns out that way. The reaction to Jaden Daniels' arrival, and how has he looked so far in the offseason?
Well, and I'll say this as somebody who's watched a lot of off seasons. This is the time of year where if your quarterback and your offense isn't thriving, you got problems, right? Because all these drills are set up for offense. It's very difficult for the defense this time of year. A lot of it, is against air. But yes, he's looked the part. More importantly, I think than the on the field. Hey, he's made this beautiful pass today. Is from what you hear from his peers, which is he's beating them to work. Like he's there early. He's all about football. Doesn't really waste his time on social media, which is nice. It's refreshing because the last Savior quarterback here spent way too much time on it. And he's really been all about football. And I think that's the bigger deal than, all the things I think he can be. And to me, when they hired Kingsbury, it just made too much sense to not take this kid. He was the guy. It seemed like it fit perfectly in the Kingsbury system with the athleticism, obviously the arm, and the things he can do for you. So I think a lot of fans, and I've looked this way, I feel very excited about what they could potentially do, but it's a tough neighborhood. The Eagles are really good. Dallas is still, despite having a, kind of a May off season, got a lot of really good parts they're bringing back. I think the Giants, Washington are probably the two teams that you look at that are, kind of, trying to fight to get closer to the postseason. But I think the Commanders have definitely had a better offseason than the Giants. Now they just got to go out and prove it on the field.
As far as skill position around Jaden Daniels, we know they've added some pieces. With Austin Eckler, right, was a big piece. Terry McLaurin, obviously, is a great wide receiver up there. How would you assess the skill position around Daniels?
Well, it's interesting because I like, again, if they just the carryover guys, McLaurin and Dotson did not have a good year in year two. Who was really good his first season here out of Penn State, but I think he's a guy who should be better, and you could get more out of him than you did last year. And Ertz is an interesting pickup, but the problem with Ertz, of course, is how many games are you going to get out of him, right? We know he's really good when he's in the field, but the issue with Ertz, for a long time here has been, can you actually keep him on the field? So I think the Ertz part of it's interesting. I think he brings a lot to the off the field dynamic in the locker room with some of these young tight ends. Ben Sanat, who they brought in, is he a tight end? Is he an H-back? Is he a fullback? He's probably a combination of all three out of Kansas State. It's an interesting pickup. Everybody's raving about Luke McCaffrey, who's almost like already been put in as the starting slot receiver, which is pretty incredible. So I think that's interesting, too, to see how he fits in. And, the backs are good. Adding Eckler was just kind of icing on the cake. I think with Robinson and Rodriguez coming back, they were going to have a pretty good running back tandem there, but now you throw in Eckler, the veteran, who's obviously a touchdown machine, but also a guy who you got to be worried about with health. But I do think there are a lot of pieces around here, and there's some depth tight ends here that I think have a chance to emerge, whether it be Cole Turner or Armani Rogers, depending on how he comes back from that Achilles injury, because he was actually the guy who was better than all the young tight ends here prior to his injury last season. So I think there are plenty of pieces here. They might need to build the depth a little bit more. I don't know how. That's going to work out with some of these veterans versus young guys, but that'll be an interesting thing to watch as we actually get into camp when there's like pads on, you can really start seeing some things.
I'll be honest, this is merely a fantasy question for my own personal knowledge.
Okay.
I'm a Brian Robinson guy. How is that going to work with him and Eckler?
That's a good question. I think it's a TBD, but I would say you got to probably keep him, if you're in a keeper league, and just see how it develops and assume that, Eckler's you got to bank in the Eckler injuries. And figure that's going to be some good weeks for Robinson. But, yeah, I'm interested to see how they do that as well. I think most folks have penciled in Eckler as the starter, but I'm not sure that's really the case. I think Robinson, when he's gotten opportunities, been really good. He was severely underutilized last year with Eric Bieniemy. That was really one of the biggest frustration points about last season, and there were a lot of them, but that was, for me, one of the worst parts about that season.
Final moment, Scott Jackson, 94.1 in Virginia Beach. All right, defensively, Scott, Dan Quinn brought a lot of guys that he's very familiar with, right? Bobby Wagner, Dante Fowler, Torrance Armstrong. a lot of veteran defensive presences now on that team. What's your thought on what they did on the overhaul defense?
Well, they addressed the linebacker position, which had been ignored for the previous 4 years by a head coach that was a former linebacker and a defensive coordinator that was a former linebacker. So that right there alone has been a huge breath of fresh air. The fact that if they would have just pulled in Wagner or Luvu, that would have been enough. But they got both of them. I think they've added some depth pieces there too with Pittman from Detroit. There's going to be some real competition there. Jamin Davis, who was the first-round pick in 2021, really is going to need to hit the ground running at camp and show out here because this staff obviously owes him nothing. So I think he's the kind of guy that's really on the spot here because he's got a lot of talent. It just has not been able to tap into it consistently under the previous group. And, we'll see there. In the secondary, I think the Chin pickup is very exciting. They obviously decided that he was better at his number than keeping Cam Curl. And that's certainly something that's going to be, dissected throughout the season. And I think with the draft picks, Mike Sanistril, they love him. Clearly they passed on Cooper DeJean. They were sitting there. They could have taken him very easily. They traded with the Eagles instead, moved back, and ended up getting Sanistril in the second round. And obviously Johnny Newton out of Illinois, who's hurt right now, but, eventually will be part of the rotation on that D-line. But, yeah, they got some good pieces. And then you look at some of the leftover guys, and you wonder, can they get more out of certainly the first-round pick, Emmanuel Forbes from last year, who was, his confidence was just crushed here early in the season with some really bad decisions made by the previous staff. So I'll be interested to see if they can get a lot out of him. He seems like the perfect ball hawk type of corner, coming out of college. Obviously, Mississippi State, that's all he did was pick the ball off and had a lot of pick sixes. I think he could fit in really well in this Quinn system.
Scott, you alluded to it earlier as we begin to wrap up. The division as a whole, I've talked to a couple of guys around the division this week, and the thought is basically the same. Philadelphia, probably a little bit ahead of Dallas, and then maybe a decent gap before you get to Washington and New York. Is that the way you see it?
Yeah, I do. I really do. And that's not to say that you still couldn't see one of those teams, I don't know if New York could. Washington maybe with a really good year from Daniels, they might be able to, sneak up with some people and be in that 9-win range potentially. And that might be able to get you into the playoffs. But, yeah, I think there is a big gap. I think Philly's better than Dallas. Last year they kind of imploded at the end of the season. But I think going into this year, they've obviously addressed more need areas, than the Cowboys have. But if you look at last year, like Green Bay was 9-8, right? And they got into the playoffs. And New Orleans was 9-8. And they just missed out. So, I think around that area, if you can get to 9 wins, then you're probably looking at a postseason. It's just hard to imagine the Giants doing that with the lack of skill guys. They don't have enough people around. Daniel Jones, you never know what you're getting from Daniel Jones coming back to that knee injury. So I would say they're probably, if I had to pick it today, they're my pick for last place, and probably, they're selected in the top 5 again next year, more than likely. But yeah, I think that's fair. It's definitely the Eagles, then the Cowboys, and then I think Washington's probably somewhere in there. How much better is it? A 7-win, 6-win, or is it, again, like I said, could they hit a 9-win season and maybe actually be in the playoff mix? I think that's probably the high point, in year one with what they've got going on here.
And final question, I talked to New England last week. They're going to ease Drake May in is the thought of there. Jacoby Brissett's going to be kind of the guy to start the year. That's not the case in Washington, right? You believe Jaden Daniels will get the ball from opening day?
Yeah, they're not saying that, but yes, I believe that. I think he will. And frankly, probably the least exciting thing they did this offseason was bringing in Marcus Mariota. and the staff likes him, and Brian Johnson's here who was with him in Philly, and that's fine. And everybody says all the right things about him as being a veteran, but I've seen enough of him in the NFL. It's just, if he's starting the season, then you're kind of bummed out. I think, again, there's nothing about Jaden Daniels to this point that has said he won't be ready in time to start the season. But, yeah, they're not putting it out there yet. They're not doing what the Bears are doing in that regard, but I think it's pretty obvious that that's the direction that it's going to go, unless there's an injury or just some major struggles and they get the pads on.
Scott Jackson, 94.1 up there in Virginia Beach. Scott, thank you for the time as always. We really appreciate it, my friend.
I appreciate it, Ryan. Thanks, man.
1010XL takes you behind the microphone.
We don't take no from anyone.
Dan Hicken and Jeff Prosser.
We don't take no prisoners. We don't take no for an answer.
Mornings on 1010XL.
Oh, yeah. We don't take no for an answer.
Now you can watch 1010XL shows all day on X, Facebook, and YouTube. Brought to you by MyBookie. Experience Vegas from the comfort of your phone anytime, anywhere. Sign up today. Use promo code 1010XL.
Here's Linda Beaver.
Summer starts now at Beaver Toyota and Beaver Chevrolet with our summer sale. It's not sink or swim. We have vehicles for every budget and every need, starting as low as $79.99, and you won't get burnt. We offer 20-year 200,000-mile protection on new and 7-year 100,000-mile protection on used. Plus, we can really cool things off with our 30-day exchange policy. Start the summer off the way you deserve it with our summer sale at Beaver Toyota in St. Augustine or Beaver Chevrolet in Jacksonville. We're here to wow you.
Men, if you're suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE, Prime Men's Medical Center will get your sex life back in just one visit. Their painless, breakthrough medical treatments eliminate ED and PE. Here's a specialist in men's health.
I'm Dr. Simovitz. Have Viagra or Cialis let you down? Prime Men's Medical Center offers the most effective treatments that eliminate ED and PE, with men lasting longer than ever. 98% of patients see instant results on their first visit.
Prime Men's Medical Center's breakthrough treatments will restore your sex life regardless of age or medical history. Your consultation and first treatment are free. Plus, you'll see instant results in the office. Plus, qualified patients will have their testosterone checked free. Call 904-902-8222. 904-902-8222. To regain your sex life in just one visit, call now. 904-902-8222.
Let's go! Join us this Saturday, June 8th at 7 o'clock in the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena as your Sharks take on the Tulsa Oilers. Great seats are still available. Ask about an awesome family package. 4 tickets, 4 food or merchandise vouchers, and a $25 Al's Pizza gift card. Get yours today. Call 904-621-0700 or visit jacksonsharks.com. Shark Tank, so break out your flip-flops and grass skirts and come join us. Check out the Polynesian dancers and learn the hula at Shark Fest, our pregame party. The first 1,000 fans will get a free leg. It's going to be a totally tubular night.
Jacksonville Sharks, Tulsa Oilers.
That's Saturday, June 8th, 7 o'clock. For tickets, call 904-621-0700 or visit jacksonsharks.com. That's 904-621-0700 or jacksharks.com. Let's go!
Let's go! The flagship station of the Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Make every day brighter, every laugh louder, and every moment memorable at the YMCA. More than just the gym, the Y is a community where you can dive into fun, fitness, family time, and make new friends all under one roof. With complimentary youth sports, childcare while you work out, summer camp savings, and more, the Y is the best value for families. Join the Y today and grow stronger together with amazing summer membership savings for a limited time. Find details at fcymca.org.
Thinning or balding hair? Introducing Scalp Micropigmentation now at IHRS. SMP is a procedure for men and women, looks like your own growing hair, and corrects thinning areas. SMP is perfect for men and women who shave their head and want a full head of hair look. Call IHRS now, 904-777-IHRS, 904-777-4477, or visit hairforme.com today.
Hey, it's Mike Dempsey, and you know how I feel about Pella Windows and Doors. Great design, strongest warranties, and the highest quality products. I even chose Pella Windows for my own home. And whether you're a homeowner replacing windows or building a new home or a trade professional working with clients, I know the design experts at Pella will help your project run smoothly and look great. Visit PellaJacks.com or the Pella showroom on Phillips Highway. That's Pella Windows and Doors.
Hey Jacksonville, I'm sure by now you've seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We are an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We are committed to customer service, reliability, and have unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today. GFL, green for life.
At Hidden Hills Golf Club, we simply love the game, and we think you'll love playing one of the most unique golf courses in North Florida. Rolling hills and striking elevation changes will test your game and keep you coming back for more. Check us out, hiddenhillsgc.com.
International soccer returns this summer. Don't miss Premier League clubs Wolves and West Ham in Jacksonville for the Stateside Cup, July 27th at Everbank Stadium. Tickets as low as $35 at statesidecup.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Thank you to my buddy Scott Jackson, 94.1 in Virginia Beach, talking about the Washington Commanders. We'll go to Philadelphia tomorrow night to check in on the Philadelphia Eagles. That's what I've gathered so far through our tour of the NFC East, is that it's Philadelphia's division to lose. Everybody I've had on expects Philly to win the division, which is pretty interesting because you'll remember Philly had almost as big a collapse as Jacksonville did last year. Philly was just a little bit better that they snuck into the playoffs only to get blown out in Wild Card Weekend, whereas Jacksonville missed the playoffs entirely. Both Philly and Jacksonville, 12 weeks in, were probably considered the two best teams in football, or two of the 3 or 4 best teams. Jacksonville misses the playoffs. Philly made it, but it was pointless because they got blown out in Tampa. But a pretty good offseason for Philadelphia, right? We'll talk about it tomorrow night, including adding Saquon Barkley. But there's some coaches on the hot seat, too. There's no question in the NFC East. Sirianni in Philly's on the hot seat if he doesn't win this year. You know Mike McCarthy in Dallas is on the hot seat, and I believe Brian Daboll potentially on the hot seat with the New York Football Giants. So that'll be an interesting division to follow. But again, we will go to Philadelphia tomorrow night as our NFC East preview continues. Coming up in less than 10 minutes, Justin Mello of the Draft Network. Speaking of divisions, I want to talk about the AFC South. Titans mandatory minicamp. The Texans are going through minicamp this week. The Colts are as well. Jaguars, of course, minicamp next week. If the season started today, what are we thinking? 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the AFC South. Me personally, right now, I probably got Texans, Jags, Colts, Titans. But I think it's going to be close. And truthfully, even if you include Tennessee, I think there's an argument for every team in the division to potentially win it. So we'll do a lot of division talk with Justin Mello of the Draft Network. He's actually based in Nashville. He comes up in less than 10 minutes. Coming up at the bottom of the 9 o'clock hour, my buddy Zach Hanshu of Roto World covering the NBA in less than 24 hours. Game 1 of the finals. Mavericks and Celtics. Pretty juicy storylines. Kristaps Porzingis against his former team. Kyrie Irving returning to Boston. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown looking to get that title that's eluded them. Luka Doncic, his first time in the NBA Finals. I like it. I like it a lot. We'll preview Mavs Celtics with Zach Hanshu of Roto World coming up at the bottom of the 9 o'clock hour. But first things first, into the NFL, into the AFC South. Justin Mello of the Draft Network out of Nashville. He comes up next on a Wednesday night in Jacksonville, Florida. We're glad you're with us. It's Hacker After Dark right here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
There's a new one-stop shop for all things Gators. Subscribe to the 1010XL Gators YouTube channel. Up-to-the-minute updates, instant reaction from Gainesville, plus the same 1010XL Gators podcast you've grown to know. And check out 1010XL Gators on YouTube.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
AC Hotline, how can I help?
Help! Our AC isn't working, and my husband's pouring ice cubes down his pants.
Wow, okay, well, we can help with the AC issue.
Please. I'm afraid he's going to damage something.
Okay, I'm going to connect you with the Duck.
The doc?
No, the Duck. Duck Air Conditioning. Jacksonville area's AC experts.
Okay, tell them to hurry.
Beat the Florida heat with Duck Air Conditioning. Service, repairs, new installations, commercial or residential. Trust the Duck. DuckDuckAC.com.
Let's go! Join us this Saturday, June 8th at 7 o'clock in the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena as your Sharks take on the Tulsa Oilers. Great seats are still available. Ask about our awesome family package. 4 tickets, 4 food or merchandise vouchers, and a $25 Al's Pizza gift card. Get yours today. Call 904-621-0700 or visit jacksonsharks.com. The Shark Tank is having a luau. So break out your flip-flops and grass skirts and come join us. Check out the Polynesian dancers and learn the hula at Shark Fest, our pregame party. The first 1,000 fans will get a free lei. It's going to be a totally tubular night.
Jacksonville Sharks, Tulsa Oilers.
That's Saturday, June 8th, 7 o'clock. For tickets, call 904-621-0700 or visit jacksonsharks.com. That's 904-621-0700 or jacksharks.com. Let's go!
Let's go. Here's your 1010XL community calendar of local events and nonprofit groups helping people here at home.
Your kids can learn from NFL Hall of Famer Leroy Butler's annual free Legends football and cheer camp. June 22nd at the Police Athletic League at Ed Austin Park. Register at jackspalsports.com.
Builders Care is looking for volunteers, and there are so many ways you can help. Find out how at builderscare.org.
Dreams Come True is a local wish-granting organization giving dreams and special times to local children battling life-threatening illnesses. Find out how you can help at dreamscometrue.org.
Caddyshack Ranch provides a safe, loving, and forever home to endangered big cats. Caddyshack, on the north side of Jacksonville, has helped lions, tigers, and endangered animals for 30 years. Learn how you can visit or help at caddyshackranch.org.
You can find out how to share your community event at 1010XL.com.
Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you.
Instant Keys saves the day if you have lost or broken keys. They can program new keys and remotes for nearly every make and model of vehicle at a fraction of the dealership cost. Fast, honest, and reliable locksmith service. Call 722-1111.
Instant Keys. Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you.
Any action? Find more fish on the Ring Power Fishing Forecast Show.
That's a big redfish, guys.
With Captain Kevin Faber.
Oh my gosh.
Brought to you by Awaken 180 Weight Loss.
Thursday nights at 6
on 1010XL AM.
This is Keith Catlin for Catlin Truck Accessories, and we are so blessed to be in business for over 100 years. Over 100 years of the best product and customer service means you can count on Catlin. From Roll-and Lock bed covers to Lear toppers to Cam Locker toolboxes, Catlin Truck Accessories has you covered when it comes to your truck or van. We do those too. Got a fleet of vehicles? We can outfit them all.
Who can you count on? Count on Catlin.
One name, one location, 100 years, you can count on Catlin.
Have you or someone you care about been arrested or had their driver's license taken away? I'm Susan Cohen, and I work with David Robbins at the law firm of Epstein & Robbins. We are experienced fighters for those charged with DUI and all criminal offenses. I've been named the best DUI attorney in the state, and David has been named the best criminal defense lawyer in Jacksonville. In your battle with the justice system, there is only one thing you need to know. Dial David 24/7 at Epstein & Robbins, 354-5645.
Hacker here, and I just got back from a 9-day cruise to the Caribbean. Now, I knew I was going to slip off my Awaken 180 program because, hey, I deserve it. I've lost 65 pounds so far. But guess what? My Awaken 180 coach even suggested it and helped me cheat. She showed me how to take a break for 9 days and not put any of the weight back on. I ate all sorts of foods, from fried green tomatoes to frog legs, but the shocking part, I didn't keep going back up for seconds, thirds, or fourths. My body didn't need it, and I really didn't want it. Did I lose weight on vacation? No, I was on a break. But did I gain 10 pounds? No, sir. I didn't gain a single pound because my metabolism is on fire. My body's just doing its thing. If you want a program that works, Want coaches that understand real life? Do what we all did and call Awaken 180. They've got your back while keeping your front from popping. 844-346-1800 or online at awaken180weightloss.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Let's ring up another guest on the All-Pro Roofing phone line.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. Jaguar OTAs going on this week. They have another set of OTAs next week, and then veteran minicamp is here June 10, 11, and 12. And believe it or not, that's it until training camp at the end of July. With all that being said, Justin Mello of the Draft Network, always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Justin, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Ryan. Appreciate you for having me on. It's an exciting period in the NFL calendar year with all 32 teams at OTAs. Mandatory minicamp is just around the corner before we get into a little mid-summer break and before training camp marks its arrival.
Yeah, it's a busy time of year, no doubt. We were down at OTAs earlier this week. I did a one-on-one with one of the newest Jaguars, Devin Duvernay. Really enjoyed that conversation. And, Justin, look, you and I haven't spoken since the draft. Your thoughts on what the Jaguars were able to accomplish with Brian Thomas, Mason Smith, Jarian Jones, and go on down the line. How you feel Trent Baalke and the Jaguars handled this draft class?
Well, I thought Brian Thomas Jr. at number one with the first-round pick made a lot of sense, right? Going into the draft, you and I had discussed on previous episodes, there was a couple directions they could have gone in, right? We talked about a long-term need at offensive tackle. We talked about a cornerback potentially to play opposite Tyson Campbell following the release of Darius Williams. But I always thought wide receiver was a position that made the most sense. I mean, number one, obviously dealt a blow in free agency, losing the number one wideout, Calvin Ridley. They didn't expect that, it sounded like, right? They made a very competitive offer to keep him. They were a little surprised that they weren't able to do so. Bringing in Gabe Davis certainly helps a deep ball guy that had a lot of success in Buffalo playing with Josh Allen. But the Ridley loss was such a big one. Gabe Davis was not going to fill those shoes as a like-for-like replacement. So as they continue investing in Trevor Lawrence, who had a bit of a down year last year, had an injury, they had to make sure that they couldn't leave any positions unaddressed. So wide receiver was a huge, huge need. I thought it made a lot of sense to go get a big-bodied vertical playmaker like Brian Thomas Jr. in the first round.
You know, it's interesting. I have a picture from last August in training camp of Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones, and Christian Kirk. And I thought at the time, all right, wow, the next couple of years, this could be something. And here we are 9 months later, and two of those guys are gone. But like you said, Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas Jr. I think Devin Duvernay, and maybe it's just I'm drinking the Kool-Aid here, that guy caught over 100 passes his final year at Texas. He caught 67 passes in 2 years in Baltimore before they just decided not to use him in the offense last year. I think Duvernay is a fourth option. You could do a lot worse than that as well, Justin.
Well, I think I agree. He's acceptable as a fourth option. Now, you're in trouble if he's one of your top three. I think he's proven throughout his NFL career he's not that kind of guy. But as a rotational number four that could maybe back up the Z position, maybe back up in the slot as well, that's where he makes the most sense. And he's also a very good special teams player throughout his NFL career. That's where he made his money in Baltimore. So I do see various ways that Devin Duvernay will contribute to this Jacksonville team this season.
Justin Mello of the Draft Network. They hit the defensive line very hard with Mason Smith, Jordan Jefferson, and Miles Cole, all three D linemen drafted by Trent Baalke. What was your thought on the Jaguars' defensive line, Hall?
Well, I thought Mason Smith, that's sort of a high-risk, high-reward type of pick, right? A former five-star recruit that entered college football with a lot of expectations and anticipation at his back and didn't really live up, I think, to the billing at LSU. But I thought he was better this year. I thought he had a career-best year, looked better than he ever did. And the sky's still the limit for him. He's still very much an ascending player. He had eligibility remaining. He could have gone back to LSU, decided not to. Felt he was ready to take this next step after playing his best ball. Again, that's one of those picks where there's a very high ceiling, but there's also a bit of a floor involved, right? So we'll see how that one works out. I love getting his teammate, Jordan Jefferson, also out of LSU. Thought he was the opposite, so to speak, of Mason Smith, a guy that didn't have a lot of hype at his back, throughout these last couple of seasons, but consistently performed well for that, transitional defensive line there. And then Miles Cole's got all the tools, right? He's one of the longest, most athletic DNs in this class. I mean, the wingspan, the arm length was completely out of this world. So that's the guy they'll get in with their D-line coach, a great new defensive coordinator there in Ryan Nielsen, and they'll see if they can work with him and mold those tools into more usable traits.
Justin, we did this last year in Jacksonville. There were a lot of veteran defensive end, edge rush type guys that were available. The Jaguars chose not to sign any of them. Okay, they kept telling us here in the media, we like our young guys. We think our young guys are going to develop. Well, that obviously didn't happen. Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker were fantastic. After that, there was a severe drop-off. Now here we are again, coming into June of 24. Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker, again, look like they're going to be good. They signed Trevis Gibson, which I guess is an upgrade over Caleb-on Chason, but you would have been an upgrade over Caleb-on Chason. I mean, I don't know
about that.
Well, but you understand the sentiment.
I do.
Do they have enough at the edge pass rush position, or do they need to go get a Carl Lawson, a Emmanuel Ogbah, dare I say a Unique Ngakoue, and bring him back here?
Well, certainly this is being carried by Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker, right? I do agree that Trevis Gibson is an upgrade from Caleb-on Chason, as you mentioned. Gibson, I'm familiar with him because he was with the Tennessee Titans last year in the AFC South. In fact, I was a little surprised they didn't get him on the field a bit more. He was a guy that flashed on occasion for the Chicago Bears previously. But certainly there's a bit of a lack of depth at this position. Now, Eric Armstead was a huge addition to this defensive line, and I think they're going to be better as an overall unit because of him, not to mention the step forward that you hope Trayvon Walker takes now in his third season. But certainly, if he has to miss time or Allen misses time, no one makes it through a 17-game season unscathed nowadays. Certainly, there's a question mark there about the depth at edge. And there are some capable bodies. You mentioned Carl Lawson. Tyus Stouser is a guy that's out there. You'd have to kind of check in on the injury and see how that's progressing. Emmanuel Ogbah is one of the more proven guys available. So they'll have the flexibility from a cap perspective to go out and get one of these veteran edge bodies if they deem them worthy.
Couple of more for Justin Mello of the Draft Network. At the cornerback position, Justin, look, they got Tyson Campbell. They signed Ronald Darby. They draft Jarian Jones and DeAndre Prince. I'm curious your thoughts on those guys, but if you look at this roster, the Jaguars have 6 draft picks at corner over the last 3 years. Eric Howlett and Christian Braswell, Monteric Brown, Gregory Jr., and now Jarian Jones and DeAndre Prince. They've invested a lot of draft capital at corner, and all 6 of those draft picks are not going to make this roster. That's going to be a great battle in training camp with those young guys trying to compete for a roster spot.
Absolutely. There are some young guys there. They'll have to see how they step up. I was a huge fan of Jarian Jones throughout the pre-draft process at Florida State. I thought that guy made a lot of plays on the football. He's athletic. He's long. He gets himself into good positions. He plays with good technique. I'll be following along how he develops. Now, they've got some proven guys, right? Ronald Darby is going to help that room. A guy like Darnell Savage is versatile enough to kind of creep downhill, play the nickel, play man coverage. So they've got some versatility, but certainly it's going to be up to someone to kind of take those horns. I imagine they'll rely on Ronald Darby a lot early just because of his experience and versatility to play multiple positions at corner. I think he'll be the premier guy opposite Tyson Campbell to start, but it'll be interesting to see how Darnell Savage is used, how DeAndre Prince is used, and how he gets into that mix, and also how long it takes Jarian Jones to acclimate to professional football. So this room could land anywhere on the spectrum, so to speak, right? Like, I think there's some upside here, but there's also a lot of young players that need to need to prove they're worthy of helping this team in order for this cornerback room to be as good as it can be.
And same question from the edge pass rush position to the corner position, whether it's Stephon Gilmore, whether it's Xavier Howard, whether it's a Steven Nelson. There are veteran corners that are available. I mean, to me, Justin, if they go sign Stephon Gilmore, he's your second best corner right now, right? I would put him over Ronald Darby. I mean, what's your thought on Jacksonville, who has money, maybe exploring the veteran corner position?
I do agree that Gilmore would be an upgrade, but I always say there's a reason every year, this time of year, you see a lot of cornerbacks, 30, 31, 32 years old, available in free agency with a list of injuries. Certainly Xavier Howard has dealt with his fair share, and a couple of other guys you mentioned have had some serious injuries in their career as well. So tread lightly with those 30, 31, 32-year-old corners, because as we know, this is a young man's league, and this is a fast man league. As soon as that change of direction, as soon as that speed goes at corner, you fall off a cliff rather quickly. So I do think they should kick the tires on some of those guys, maybe see what they have left. But I wouldn't be surprised if they say, you know what, we're going to prefer the young athleticism that we already have in our room and lean on those guys, coach them up, get them with the right technique, and that's how we're going to approach the corner position this season.
Justin, as we begin to wrap up, I want to look at the division, but final Jaguar-related question. I know you saw them Week 18 in Nashville, the collapse that finally ended the collapse, right? They lose to the Titans, capping off a 5 out of 6 loss streak at the end of the year. They missed the playoffs. It was a bad day here in Jacksonville for the fans, the organization, everybody. Now here we are almost 5 months later, free agency in the rearview mirror, the draft in the rearview mirror. We're inside of 60 days till training camp. Are they better? Is this a better roster now than they had when they walked off that field in Nashville on January 7th?
I think it's a better football team in general, and I know that they've lost some pieces. Calvin Ridley was a big one, Darius Williams, but they brought in some guys like we talked about, Gabe Davis, Eric Armstead, the positions in the draft, especially Brian Thomas Jr. The reason I think this is a better football team in 2024 than it was in 2023 is the health of Trevor Lawrence. Okay, I think it was very clear that he battled through multiple injuries throughout the year. His productivity was clearly impacted. They go as far as he takes them. It's that simple. And you could say the same thing about, Will Levis and the Tennessee Titans, Anthony Richardson and the Indianapolis Colts, and to a degree, C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans. All four teams in the AFC South will go as far as their young quarterback takes them. With a healthier Trevor Lawrence, a more productive Trevor Lawrence, I think we'll see shades of 2022, that breakout year for him. I think he'll get back to that kind of form, take that step forward that he's capable of taking. Everyone thought he was going to make last year until the injury sort of reared their head. So I expect to see an improved version of Trevor Lawrence in 2024, and in turn, that certainly means an improved version of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Final moments, Justin Mello of the Draft Network. As we talk about the division, you mentioned it. Last year, you could go back to August or even September of 23, things were being said, worst division in football, most boring division in football. And now here we are, Justin, in late May, early June of 24, and outside of the AFC North, I think there's an argument to be made that it might be the best division in football outside of the North. I mean, what's your thought on the absolute transformation in the AFC South over the last 9 or so months?
Well, it's a stark reminder that life comes at you fast and how quickly things change in the NFL, right? The Houston Texans, I'm buying into the hype, right? I think C.J. Stroud's a special quarterback. He showed that last year. You look at what they did this offseason. I mean, to go get guys like Stephon Diggs, Daniel Hunter, Denico Autry, this is a really Decel Shire. This is a really, really deep, complete roster, right? So I'd be surprised if they didn't meet expectations. But as we know in the NFL, what it looks like on paper doesn't always translate to the field. So TBD on that. The Tennessee Titans, who I cover in Nashville, really interesting one, right? Because I think they're the biggest unknown in the division, right? A lot of nationwide analysts are not giving them a ton of respect. They're projected to finish last in the division consistently. They acquired some good players this summer as well, right? L'Jarius Sneed, Calvin Ridley, two massive ones at big positions of need. You bring in Tyler Boyd to complete a receiver room that now has Ridley, Boyd, and DeAndre Hopkins. You hire a pass-happy, forward-thinking head coach in Brian Callahan, who's worked with a lot of great quarterbacks throughout his tenure in the league, who believes in Will Levis, right? So that team will go as far as Will Levis's development can take them. If he's who they think he is, they've got a lot of good supporting pieces in place. And I say the same thing about the Indianapolis Colts, right? The key for Anthony Richardson is to stay healthy this year, right? 3 injuries, I think, in 4 games last season, ended his year in week 4 or 5 against the Titans, actually, with a season-ending shoulder injury. So if he's healthy, you love what they've done as well. We know they've got the pieces on the defense. Gus Bradley's a great defensive coordinator. They've got a lot of talent in that front seven. They're a deep group at edge. Their defensive tackle with guys like Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner. And then on offense, they've got the supporting pieces, holding on to Michael Pittman Jr., having a guy like Jonathan Taylor, having Alec Pierce maybe take another step forward, and some of the young guys they drafted as well at receiver. So that's a team that also, and they competed last year for a playoff spot without Anthony Richardson, right? So if he's the guy they think he is, certainly they'll be in that, 8, 9, 10 win mix in the AFC South as well.
Justin, final question. We won't hold you to it. We'll hopefully have you back on before training camp anyway. But as it stands right now, at the end of May, beginning of June, what's your 1 through 4 in the division? If you had to say 1, 2, 3, and 4 right now based on what we know on paper.
Wow, that's tough. It never goes the way you think it will, but I got a hard time going against the Texans winning the division for a second straight year. The roster's just so complete. Unless they're decimated by injuries or C.J. Stroud hits an unforeseen, sophomore wall, I really like their chances. I'm going to avoid your question a little bit. I'm going toss-up between the Titans and Jags for 2 and 3. I think I'd give the slight edge to the Jags at 2, but I think it'll be close. I'm going with the Colts as my consensus number 4, though, and last place in the AFC South.
Tell us about the Draft Network. Obviously, it's a year-round process for you guys. I know the 2025 process has already begun.
It has indeed. Yeah, we've got a big board already for available for the 2025 draft. We've done a couple way too early mock drafts for the next calendar year as well. And our scouts are doing their summer scouting series right now. The in-house scouts are doing a terrific job getting us prepped and ready. And I'm working on 2 ongoing series right now for the Draft Network. One being a undrafted free agent to make every single team, and the second series being one player that's facing a make-or-break year. So typically a guy entering his 3rd season, maybe the first 2 years haven't gone to plan. Well, now it's time to face the music. This is it, do or die in your 3rd season. So both those series are available on the draftnetwork.com. In fact, I don't think I've done the Jaguars player for either series yet, but I'll keep you posted when I do. Perhaps we'll have me back on here to discuss.
Yeah, Justin, we appreciate it. Again, Justin Mello of the Draft Network. Let me go ahead and tell you, Joshua Cephas, that guy's making plays out there at OTAs, the Texas San Antonio wide receiver who for some reason went undrafted, but I think the Jaguars potentially might have found something there. We'll see how it plays out. Justin, I know you're busy, man. Thank you as always. We'll talk again real soon.
Pleasure is mine. Take care now.
Here's another classic Florida Gator moment.
Kind of calm myself down, pull back tears.
You have never seen any player in the entire country play as hard as I will play the rest of the season, and you never see someone push the rest of the team as hard as I will push everybody the rest of the season, and you never see a team play harder than we will the rest of this season. God bless.
1010XL.
Hey Jacksonville, I'm sure by now you've seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We are an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We are committed to customer service, reliability, and have unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today. GFL, green for life.
Hey sports fans, this is Hayes Carlyon from MyBookie. The NBA playoffs are heating up and it's the perfect time to elevate your game with MyBookie. With MyBookie, you can bet from anywhere, anytime, so you never miss a shot to cash in on a play. You can even live stream and bet on the games right from the sportsbook, giving you everything you'll need to decide, cash out or let it ride. MyBookie really makes it easy to get paid with tons of boosted props and slam dunk parlays, and new boosts are now posted on the daily. It's more than just a sports book. Buzzer beaters, underdog upsets, and a community to share in all of the sweats. Give yourself a head start today and play with house money using promo code 1010XL when you make your first deposit. That's promo code 1010XL to claim a limited time bonus when you sign up and make your first deposit. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie. And don't forget that promo code 1010XL.
What's up? I'm Patrick Young. If you're a business owner, make your plans to attend the Florida SBDC Network Small Business Success Summit, August 19th and 20th at the Sawgrass Marriott in Ponte Vedra. You'll network with other Florida business owners, learn marketing and operational strategies. Plus, I'll deliver an inspirational keynote message. There's also a reverse trade show event where you can speak with government agencies to explore their business partnerships. Register online at floridasbdc.org, and I will see you there.
Kick it here with Zero Res. If you're like me, you like to sit on the sofa and recliners and watch a good game or show. You know, unwind down from the day. But sometimes TV time means food, drink, and a mess as well. That's why you need to have the Zero Res truck out and get that furniture looking great again. All of June, Zero Res offering 25% off all upholstery cleaning, 25% off a sectional, off a sofa, 25% off a love seat, 25% off your favorite recliner. Zero Res, man. You spell it forwards, you spell it backwards. Zero Res. It's the right way to clean.
Hey folks, this is Dave Benyon with my son Ammon here from Zero Res. Ammon, you've been cleaning air ducts for a while now. What are some of the reasons customers might consider getting their air ducts cleaned?
There are many reasons. Many times, people suffer needlessly from poor indoor air quality produced by the conditions in their air system. Construction dust, the presence of bacterial growth, and years' worth of buildup all come together to make your air ducts a pretty gross place. If you suffer from allergies, have recently moved, recently remodeled, or have never had your air ducts cleaned, then now is the best time to call. By calling Zero Res, you'll have the peace of mind of knowing that you called the best of the best. Our state-of-the-art truck mount system and top-of-the-line service representatives simply can't be found anywhere else. Google Zero Res and read thousands of 5-star reviews.
So what kind of deals can I expect?
Just mention that you heard us on the radio, and we'll give you $100 off your air duct cleaning.
Wow, that sounds like a pretty great deal. Remember, folks, Zero Res,
spelled forward or backwards, it's the right way to clean.
CEROREC. Zero Res. When they were little, the other girls played with dolls.
Aww.
They played with footballs.
Who's them? Yes, it's us.
Helmets and heels.
From the First Coast Lighting Studios at 1010XL.
Weekdays noon to 2.
Some girls have all the fun.
This is Hayes Carlion for QC Kinetics. Are you not able to enjoy this summer as much as you want because of joint pain? Well, give my friends at QC Kinetics a call at 904-274-5522 for a free consultation. They're serving the Jacksonville area with locations in Mandarin and Ponte Vedra Beach. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. I'm talking lasting joint pain relief with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. QC Kinetics advanced treatments harness your own body's ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue so you can walk, run, hike, play golf, move again, pain-free. Their advanced protocols have enabled tens of thousands of patients to reclaim their mobility. Stop putting it off. Take action now and live your best life again. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation, 904-274-5522 in Mandarin and Ponte Vedra. That is QC Kinetics.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Let's ring up another guest on the All-Pro Roofing phone line.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. And then there were two, the Dallas Mavericks and the Boston Celtics. The NBA Finals begins Thursday night, a best-of-7, with the winner being crowned world champion. Let's preview the finals, and let's talk about how we got here with Zach Hanshu of Roto World. He does a great job covering the NBA, and he's certainly one of our guys here on 1010XL. Zach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How about yourself?
Zach, we're good. And, boy, you know, I was thinking as the finals get ready to start on Thursday night, me being an Orlando Magic fan, I remember a Magic-Lakers game at Staples Center in the middle part of October. It was like the third game of the year. Jalen Suggs missed a wide-open three, and the Lakers won the game. And I'm sitting here thinking, man, that was 8 months ago almost, and that was part of this season. I mean, it's just the NBA is a marathon, man, no question about it. And now here we are, two teams remaining, the Mavericks and the Celtics. I imagine a guy like yourself is pretty fired up for this matchup.
I'll tell you what, man. To your earlier point, yeah, I think this season just flew by. This was a great one. I think the playoffs in the Western Conference were phenomenal. The Eastern Conference, we did have some great games, but those Western Conference playoffs, they were something of beauty. And we got just a phenomenal matchup. Just on paper, the star power, the firepower. We got defense. We got guys that can score the basketball. It was inevitable that Boston, I think, was going to run through the East, and then we have kind of a surprise coming out of the West in Dallas. I think this is going to be a great one.
Boston 12-2 in the playoffs. Now, they played Miami when Miami wasn't at full strength. They played Cleveland without Donovan Mitchell for a couple of those games, and they played Indiana when Halliburton missed some time. Having said all that, I think Boston would have probably won those series anyway, Zach, but they have not really been tested, probably like they will against Dallas. Are you concerned at all about Boston's path on how they got here?
Yeah, I think you got to be a little bit concerned. Again, I think it was inevitable that they were going to win. I agree. Even if they had played those teams at full strength, Boston was the better team. Boston was going to, come out of the playoffs and make it to the finals this year. But yeah, they're not battle tested, like the Mavericks. The Mavericks went through the ringer. Obviously, that first round matchup they had, Kawhi Leonard wasn't available, but they did take down the number 1 seed in the second round pretty handily, and they knocked off the team that knocked off the defending champions, and they beat Minnesota very convincingly in that closeout game 5. So I think Dallas has been counted out. Dallas is battle tested. And Dallas comes into this series with far less pressure. I mean, if they were to come out and lose, I think people would say, well, Boston was the better team all regular season. It was their finals to win. They've been here before. Luka's young. It's his first trip. So I think Dallas is dangerous because I don't think they're playing with that pressure. They're playing free and loose right now. They're battle tested.
Zach Hanshu of Roto World covering the NBA with us here on 1010XL. In Jacksonville. Zach, the Dallas Mavericks, you mentioned kind of flying under the radar a little bit. You and I have talked many times this season. We spent time on the Lakers and the Clippers and the Nuggets and the Thunder and the Timberwolves. How did this happen? How did a 5 seed, who, by the way, has 2 superstars, right? I mean, Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic are superstars, but yet nobody really paid attention to Dallas this year. They were almost an afterthought entering the playoffs. And now here they are, the last team standing in the West. How did they accomplish this?
Yeah, I think people kind of took the whole season rather than looking at what the trajectory of the team was post All-Star break. Like you mentioned, Dallas was the 5 seed, but they did have 50 wins this year. It was a very competitive Western Conference, one of the most competitive we've seen in years. And since they acquired Daniel Gafford and P.J. Washington at the trade deadline, they've been one of the NBA's best defenses, which is something they really struggled with earlier in the season. And adding Washington opened up the floor for 3-point shooting. Bringing Gafford in took some of the pressure off of Derek Lively, the rookie, who's been phenomenal in his own right. But now you have 2 lob threats in the middle who pair really well with guys like Luka and Kyrie. So trade deadline is really what won Dallas this season. It's what turned their entire season around, and I don't think people paid too much attention because Washington and Gafford came from Charlotte and Washington, and those were teams that were bottom of the barrel. Nobody was paying attention to just how good these guys were and what they could add to a contending team.
Obviously, one of the big storylines going into Dallas and Boston is the Kyrie Irving angle. Zach, quickly, for people here in Jacksonville that may not be familiar or that don't really remember, I mean, Kyrie Irving in the city of Boston, there's not a lot of love lost there.
Yeah, people don't like Kyrie in Boston, and it's going to be the same thing with, Kristaps Porzingis when he comes back to Dallas. So I think that's one of the great angles here for this finals is we're going to get some back and forth with these players who are not necessarily liked, by these respective franchises. I think Kyrie Irving, what I really like about this is you hear some of his sound bites and listen to some of his interviews. And I think you can kind of tell that he has matured since he was with the Boston Celtics. He even said, I was in a bad place with Boston. He had some stuff going on with his family and his personal life. He was a younger player. It seems like on this team, he's now more mature. He's more of a leader on this team. And it's been really nice to watch him kind of come full circle from being a villain to now I think a guy that people are really starting to come around on again.
Couple of more for Zach Hanshu of Roto World, previewing the NBA Finals. Again, Mavericks and Celtics, Game 1 of the Finals Thursday night. Luka Doncic is arguably the best player in basketball. He's certainly in the top 2 or 3 if you don't have him number 1. Getting to the Finals, it is his first Finals, which is obviously a very big deal. Does he need a ring to cement himself as one of the league's best already, or is he already there regardless of what happens?
Yeah, I think he's already there. And again, just because of how young he is, I think people expect him to get back to this spot again in the future. Obviously, getting some hardware would certainly help that case because Jokic this year won the MVP when many people thought Luka was very deserving of it. And so instead of it being a 2-1 MVP count, it's now 3-0. And Luka doesn't have that finals trophy. So I think definitely that would help out his case. But no, it's impossible to argue that he's not one of the top 3 best players in the NBA right now.
As far as Boston goes, I mean, look, it was get to the NBA Finals, or the season's probably a disappointment, if not a failure, Zach. Now that they're here, is that still the situation? Because they're playing the 5 seed in the West. Is it win the Finals, or the season's a disappointment?
I think that it's been that way the entire time. I think winning the Finals was the only successful way that you're going to end the season if you're the Boston Celtics. You retooled this season. You came in and got Drew Holiday. You got Kristaps Porzingis. Brad Stevens made some incredible moves to bring those guys in and stack this roster. 65-win team, best record in basketball by a long shot, ran through the East, 12-2, as you mentioned, in the playoffs. I think that was always going to be the case, that you have to win the Finals or it's not going to be a successful season. Just because Tatum and Brown have been in so many Eastern Conference Finals, they've been into so many big playoff games, and I think they've both gotten a reputation as, hey, maybe they don't live up to the big moment here, and when are we finally going to deliver that title?
Zach Hanshu of Roto World. All right, what kind of series do you envision? Dallas, like you said, they've gone through a gauntlet of tough competition in the Western Conference. Boston has had, quite frankly, a relatively easy time of it. Again, 12-2 in their 14 postseason games. Before we get official prediction from you, Zach, what kind of series do you envision here between the Mavs and the Celtics?
I think this one's going to be back and forth. I don't see this being a blowout either way. I don't see there being many double-digit games. I think these are going to be very close. These teams match up well together. Obviously, you got different styles. You have Boston with just well-rounded across the board. They got the best starting 5 in basketball in terms of talent. But you have the best player in the series in Luka. You have the best finishers, the best closers to a game in Luka and Kyrie on the other side. Both teams have tremendous defense. Both teams scored a lot of points this season. So I envision this being a very close and back-and-forth series.
All right, with that being said, Zach, who do you like? Mavs, Celtics. It begins Thursday night, Game 1. Who wins the NBA championship?
So I'm giving it to Dallas in 6. I think Boston, again, is the more talented top 5 in terms of their starters. But when it comes to the best player on the floor and that guy, hey, give me the ball at the end of the game, go out and get me a bucket, take over late, I don't know that we can count on Jason Tatum doing that consistently. And I'm not sure who that guy would be for Boston, because we've seen Brown take it over. We've seen Tatum do it at times. We've seen Holiday emerge as a scorer. But you know that Luka Doncic at the end of the game wants that ball, and he's going to deliver. So I think we get a split in Boston for the first 2 games. I think Dallas wins both of theirs at home. Boston wins again in Game 5, and then Dallas closes it out in Game 6.
Final moment, Zach Hanshu of Roto World, which would be a great culmination to Luka Doncic and what has been a great postseason run for him. All right. After the finals, you go right into the draft. I mean, it's crazy. And then free agency soon after that. Obviously, some names that are out there. And the biggest story, maybe is a guy that's going to be drafted in the second round, right, of the draft. And Bronny James, LeBron's a free agent. All the talk is Bronny or his reps are basically telling people, do not draft me. They want to go to the Lakers, obviously, to play with his dad is the thought. And we don't really know who the coach of the Lakers is going to be yet. The thought is maybe J.J. Redick. How does that whole situation, in your opinion, play out?
Yeah, I think as far as the coach goes, I think it will end up being Redick. I mean, that's kind of the rumor that's been going around. There's been no official announcement yet. So I think after the finals, we'll come to find out, hey, it's J.J. Redick. Obviously, he's doing that podcast with LeBron. They're friends. That's kind of where we're leaning there. In terms of Bronny, yeah, I mean, I think after the combine, he showed that, he is a really talented player. Maybe more so than what people thought before he came in and did some workouts. But he's not a guy that's going to go in the first round. I think he does end up going in the second round. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if he ended up going to the Lakers.
And that dynamic, I mean, what kind of pro is Bronny James going to be? Obviously, LeBron has said that he wants to play with his son for a year or two. I mean, if Bronny James goes to the Lakers, do you envision 2024/2025 being LeBron's final year in the NBA?
That's a great question. I would like to say, yes, he'll ride off into the sunset. He'll play with his son for a year. But we've seen this guy, do things that we've never seen before from a guy his age. So, if we saw him play another 2 or 3 seasons, because obviously his rookie season, his son's not going to make a huge impact. But, if he sticks around for a couple more years and maybe watches his son develop a little bit more, or maybe his son gets drafted by another franchise and LeBron goes over there and leaves the Lakers and just finishes out his career somewhere else. I'd love to see that happen in Cleveland. I'd love to see the Cavaliers draft Bronny James and attract LeBron over there.
Zach, final question. Anything else in the next month before free agency hits? Guys that are on the trade market, we've heard potentially Trae Young. There's some talk about Paul George. Any other big names that you think might be on the move in the next couple of weeks when the summer opens up?
No, I think those are some of the big ones right there. Just some of the franchises I'm excited to see. I'd really like to see what the 76ers end up doing. It's been such a disappointment for them in the playoffs every year due to Embiid's health. So the thought is, obviously, Tobias Harris won't be back. Can they get that third star to maybe take some pressure off Embiid and pair with Tyrese Maxey, maybe turn that franchise around a little bit in the playoffs? And your Orlando Magic, they're going to have a lot of cap space. They had a phenomenal season, taking that first-round series to 7 games. And their future is really looking bright. So those are the 2 teams, both Eastern Conference teams. I'm really excited to see what kind of moves they make.
Yeah, it'll hopefully be an exciting summer in Central Florida for some talent to be brought in to join Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner down there in Orlando. Zach Hanshu of Roto World. Zach, really appreciate it, man. Enjoy the finals. We might dial your phone after the finals, right before free agency, to see where the dust has settled. But we certainly appreciate you joining us, man.
Appreciate it as always, man. Have a good one.
Now, the Cool Down with Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing, keeping Jack's cool since 1987.
And thank you to my buddy Zach Hanshu of Roto World, covering the NBA, for previewing the finals with us here tonight. Again, the NBA Finals begin tomorrow. Game 1, the Dallas Mavericks and the Boston Celtics. My big takeaway of the evening here on Hacker After Dark, well, it's all about the division, right? We talked a lot about the AFC South tonight and just how much better it is from last year at this time to this year. You could argue AFC North. I think people were swaying me a little bit on the NFC North. But aside from those two, the AFC South, 1-4, doesn't play second place to anybody. I mean, you could argue right now probably the 3rd best division in the National Football League. Again, I would have the AFC North 1. NFC North, yeah, I mean, Green Bay and Detroit, Minnesota, Chicago, we'll see. But after those two, I would have the AFC South right there, which is a far, far cry from where it was just, 9 months ago when the season started last year in September of 2023. Well, that'll just about do it. It has been a very, very busy Wednesday night edition here of Hacker After Dark on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM. We certainly appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We have a ton of people to thank tonight. Again, Zach Hanshu of Roto World covering the NBA. Mavericks Celtics Game 1 tomorrow night in Boston. Luka Doncic going for his first ring. The Celtics looking to cap off what's been a couple of years of excellence but postseason failure. So a lot of pressure, no doubt, is on Boston to finish the deal this time around when the finals begin tomorrow night. Thank you to Scott Jackson, 94.1 in Virginia Beach, formerly of the Ball here in Jacksonville back in the day. He covers the Washington Commanders up there, has done work on their radio network in the past. And look, the Commanders, as our NFC East preview continues, a lot of excitement with brand new head coach Dan Quinn, brand new quarterback Jaden Daniel. They added a lot of veterans in the offseason. Austin Eckler, Bobby Wagner, Dante Fowler, just to name a few. But we'll see if they can challenge Philadelphia or Dallas for that NFC East spot as our NFC East preview continues all week here on Hacker After Dark. Thank you to Will Miles of readandreaction.com for joining us this evening to talk a little Florida Gators with us. Always enjoy that conversation as well. And thank you back in hour number 1 to Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4 for joining us to talk Jags OTAs, final week of OTAs for the Jaguars, as they will take part in OTAs, I believe, today and tomorrow, and then that's it until minicamp next week, and we'll see how many of the veterans are required to show up. It sounded like Doug Peterson might give some of the veterans next week off, as he did last week, and that's it till training camp there at the end of July. We will be back tomorrow night on a Thursday, and we will do it all over again beginning at 8 o'clock. Dylan Denmark was your producer tonight. Dylan, great job as always. I'm the hacker, Ryan Green. And again, Jacksonville, thank you for spending part of your Wednesday evening with us right here on Hacker After Dark on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM.
At 1010XL,
Red Moondog 711 4213.
we speak at least 5 different languages.
3 Rocket X Craft.